Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another brand new episode of the MLB Guardcast. I am Mike Vorhies. With me, as always, the man in the middle, my dominant center, so to speak, Bryan Shaw. Good evening, Bryan. How are you, sir?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, been a little bit, couple of weeks as things seem to have settled down. Football season's now over, and we're going to be getting into spring training here soon, which I am attending. So I'll be
Nice.
able to do a little recap
Congrats.
of kind of what I saw at spring training. I'm going to be going around St. Patrick's Day, so I'm really excited about that. I haven't been in a few years. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I went in 2019, and I can't believe it's been 4 years since I went.
Wow.
COVID has just really screwed up the fake time
Oh,
that we
absolutely.
exist in.
Yeah.
Things just either went really fast or went really slow and really, really messed up. But I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for our next guest. We seem to be just kind of reeling them off here. So we got another
Yeah.
guest coming up. But first, Mike, if I wanted to get some graphic work done, where could I do that?
Oh, Bryan, I'm so glad that you asked. Are you looking to spruce up your company's logo or website? Are you looking for help when it comes to digital arts and marketing? Then you can look no further than Nova Digital Arts. You can check out their work at NovaDigitalArts at iCloud.com. Tell them that the MLB Guardcast sent you. Nova Digital Arts, located in Greene, Ohio. You can give my man Derek a call at 234-716-1687. Nova Digital Arts, creating magic since 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my honor, privilege, along with Bryan's as well, to introduce the voice, the radio voice of the Akron RubberDucks, Marco LaNave. Marco, welcome.
Well, Mike and Bryan, thanks so much for having me. Delighted to be with you guys. And yeah, excited to be talking baseball here in mid-February.
Yeah, spring training right around the corner. The games are going to start to ramp up. Pitchers and catchers are there. Already getting some news out of spring training. But first off, kind of give us your background into broadcasting. How'd you end up with the Ducks? How long you've been there? Where can people listen to you? What else do you do with your time? Are you a full-time broadcaster? Do you have another hobby or job that you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks, Bryan. So this is going to be my 5th year with the Akron RubberDucks organization. It'll be my 11th season broadcasting minor league baseball. I'm a Minnesota native, and I started my professional baseball broadcasting, actually working in the background with the Minnesota Twins radio broadcast as an intern 12 years ago now. And then from there, I went to Single A Club, the Quad Cities River Bandits. At the time, they were a Cardinals, then an Astros affiliate. Then I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and was there as they were a Double A affiliate at the time of the Miami Marlins. And after 3 years there, within the same ownership group, I got the chance to move to Ohio, to Akron, and to the Double A for the now Cleveland Guardians. And I get to partner with Jim Clark, who really is a legend in our league, in our industry. And for this organization, he's been with the franchise in Northeast Ohio since the 2nd year it was here. And this will be his 30th season broadcasting baseball for Akron. Previously, it was the Akron Arrows, and before that, the Canton Akron Indians. So to be able to work with someone that's got the experience, the professionalism, the stories from all of his time with this organization is really cool for me. And you can hear us on the iHeartRadio app. We are on an iHeart station in Akron, Canton, AM 640 WHLO. So you can find that easily on the iHeartRadio app. As with minor league teams, you can find us in the MILB First Pitch app. And you can, of course, go to AkronRubberDucks.com. Our games are also on MILB.TV. You would hear Jim and myself on the home games. For road games, of course, you'd have to check out the audio-only stream But MILB.TV now available to all of those who subscribe to MLB.TV, which is fantastic, and all those who purchase the audio option on the MLB app. So we're reaching more and more people, and excited to share Rubber Ducks baseball and future Guardians baseball as we've come to know over the last few years.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that. A lot of guys up and coming that I'm sure you spent some time with. Now, iHeart, is that free to listen to? Do you need a subscription for that one, or like with the MLB subscription, or can anybody listen?
Yeah, so audio will be free. Again, so it's free on AkronRubberDucks.com, the MILB First Pitch app. The audio you hear of us, that is free. iHeartRadio app is also a free app. You can listen to iHeart stations throughout the country, podcasts, all that sort of thing. And that's actually the platform that will podcast a lot of the interviews that we have with players and coaches with the Rubber Ducks. We have an Akron Rubber Ducks baseball podcast on the iHeartRadio app. It's a free app, and you can pull up our station, 640 WHLO, listen to the games as well.
Awesome. Well, like I said, news already coming out of spring training, and we find out that Daniel Espino has been shut down for another 2 months, another shoulder injury. You probably haven't seen a lot of him, but what do you make of that? I mean, is this a guy that we're going to have to worry about that's going to have injury concerns here going forward? Because there's a lot of hope for him to be a part of the starting rotation, and a good part of the starting rotation.
Yeah, I would, as I process the news that came out, we're, just hours removed from the Guardians announcing what his status is, and that he's had the shoulder soreness from in January, I guess is the last time that they noted this, and they're gonna evaluate him again at 6 weeks out, and then maybe 8 total weeks of time down from throwing. So that really sounds like he's probably not going to be ready for minor league season opening day. But I would almost draw a parallel to like a Tristan McKenzie situation from a few years ago. It's interesting that McKenzie, he pitched in Akron the year before I got here, and he was a much hyped prospect pitcher. And going into that 19 season, my first year in Akron, excited about his potential, and he never pitched for an affiliate. Didn't pitch the whole 19 season, and of course made his major league debut in 2020. So I just say that as a reason for optimism. This is, obviously, disappointing that we don't get to see Daniel Espino, right away, at least to start the season. But I think there's some trust that can be placed in the Guardians organization. So I leave that as a point of optimism. With Espino, last year we got a flash of him for 4 starts in April. Phenomenal stuff. I've seen plenty of minor league games. First time ever I've seen it. Striking out the first 11 batters of the game and 14 batters in 5 innings. Overpowering fastball, devastating breaking pitches. So the excitement is real. You can see it as soon as you watch him pitch. So there will be excitement when he does finally get back on that mound, and hopefully it is soon.
I think I love the comparison there with what happened with Tristan McKenzie. So obviously there is some hope. I know that Espino is the #1 ranked Guardians prospect right now. So we didn't make any moves to attach him. I know there were several teams that had inquired as to his availability. Cleveland quickly squashed those and said, no, we're going to keep him. So obviously they see him as a building block of the future. And like you said, Marco, if he struck out 11 batters to start a game, I think he's going to be a really, really good one for years to come.
And another thing, with Cleveland is they've got this great track record of developing pitching. We're seeing it with the guys that they've brought up. As you look at the major league club going into spring training, you feel like, okay, maybe the back end of the rotation, if these guys don't come through, well, we've got some options, right? So there's a lot of depth. There's not desperation to get Espino there. There's certainly excitement, but there's not desperation.
Yeah, because there are other options. I mean, there's Tanner Bibby and Logan Allen still coming up. So there are other guys that, might make their debuts this season if the starting five need help. Not to mention Connor Pilkington. I got it right, Mike.
Yes,
That
thank
was the
you.
thing
I
last year. I
didn't.
could not get Connor's last name right
No, it was
for the
bad. We
life of
needed
me.
a
And
needed a little.
I'll correct you
tally.
guys on one too. It is Bybee. It is
Oh, it's
Bybee.
Bybee, not
there you
Bibby.
go.
Okay.
I've heard Bibby a few places, but it is Bybee. Yep.
Okay.
And
Well, appreciate that.
he's one
Marco's
to
the
get
guy to
excited about
know.
too.
Marco knows the names. I mean, he hears them quite a bit. So, being a broadcaster, I'm sure you've gone over several of these names multiple times.
Yeah. But all the guys you talk about, I mean, and Peyton Battenfield,
Yeah.
that's another one that he's one that was impressive. The organization trading for him in 21, and he was a big part of Akron winning that league championship in 21. But of course, he didn't get his shot yet with Cleveland, right? They kept him in Columbus all last season, so he's another one that's still there, and the depth is real.
Yeah, and Cody Morris got some starts. There's those guys that were just kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit. So they do have some rotational depth, and you just hate to see when some of your top guys just seems to consistently be getting those injuries. Now, one position that I really wanted to ask you about, because I figured you've seen a lot of these guys. What do you make of the middle infield situation? How you think that's going to shake out with the Guardians, whether it's Gabriel Arias and Tyler Freeman, or Angel Martinez? There's a slew of guys there, and there's definitely not enough positions. Jose's got third base lockdown. Jimenez is either going to have second base or shortstop wherever they just decide to keep him. And then Ahmed Rosario is a free agent next season. So how do you think that shakes out over the next, whether it's this year or next year?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and there is depth, there is talent at that position, like you mentioned. Tyler Freeman coming up, one of the best hitters, just bat to ball hitters that I think we've seen in the minor leagues. That was clear even from just a half season of Double-A, and then he was on to Triple-A, and then to the big leagues last year. Gabriel Arias came over as a middle infield prospect, right? And now he's, I read that he's maybe going to be tried out in the outfield a little bit in spring training. So I think we're seeing some indications, there of, can we turn these guys into maybe some utility players and find a spot for them on the major league roster, maybe some more playing time. But it could be a situation like what we saw with the outfield just a few weeks ago. The trade that they made, Will Benson being traded. Yeah. They were trading from a position of depth, right? So I think they'll perhaps judge when the time is right that, okay, maybe we do need to deal from this position of depth in the middle infield. But I think they're comfortable with having that position pretty loaded. With Akron, we saw last year Bryan Rocchio, who was very exciting at the end of 2021, coming up, leading Akron to the championship, and then spent most of last season with Akron, which maybe was a little bit of a surprise. But again, he's not a guy that they need to rush because they've got the players that were performing at the major league level. So I think they've got time for these guys to develop. Can they adjust to that AAA level? Rocchio only got a sample of that. There's Jose Tena still. They dealt for Juan Brito in the Nolan Jones trade. So I think they know how to manage depth, and I think you're right that there's not a place for everybody. So it could be that these guys get moved elsewhere, but I think the front office will decide when the time is right to do that. And like you mentioned, the situation like Ahmed Rosario, pending free agent, maybe don't want to think in those terms right away, but in terms of building the sustainability of an organization over the years, there's a possibility that he might not be here at some point, that one of these players in the minor leagues now might need to step up for the club at the major league level.
Yeah. From my perspective, you were talking about maybe moving some of these guys in the middle infield. If they do that, my hope is they package a couple players and get a definitive upgrade, because from how I've been perceiving it, it seems to be, well, we're stuck in a log jam. The 40 man is packed and we've got to move somebody, Benson for another minor leaguer, Nolan Jones for another minor leaguer, where it just feels like you're just going a 1-for-1 just to free up a 40 man spot, where those guys, if Nolan Jones and Benson start hitting with their new teams, I think we're all going to be like, well, what did we trade these guys for? Why didn't they get opportunity? So there's some of that pressure too from the guys that did stick around. They better perform.
Right. No, I think you're right about that. And maybe the time will be right at some point. I think how the guys do this year, spring training, minor league level. I mean, think about the performance of each of these players. I think they should be thinking about these as really auditions, right? There's development happening, but there's also auditions, and I think Cleveland, the front office, got the message from the team on the field last year that we're ready to win now. It's not a, stockpile all the talent we can and see where it gets us down the line. No, they really have something that they can win now. They can win down the line. So again, this front office has shown the ability to balance that so well. I look at the big trade, sending Mike Clevenger to San Diego. I mean, the haul of guys.
We talk about that one back. Often.
Oh my gosh! I mean, we saw him in Akron. Some of the names that came through, and then going through that Guardians, playoff roster and being like, this guy and this guy and this guy. They all came from the Clevenger trade, right? So I'm impressed. I'm probably more optimistic, but I'm impressed by how they can find the right deal, the right package at the right time.
Now, I know, Marco, you had said, we heard the rumors that they were going to look at putting Gabriel Arias in the outfield, kind of getting that versatility down, because we all know with injuries in baseball, they happen so quickly and you need to be able to kind of pivot quickly. We saw them try this last year with putting Gabriel at first. I don't think that worked out as well as they had hoped, but I think that may constitute a problem, because just like the middle infield, we've got a loaded outfield talent pool coming too. So like, I know you've seen George Valera. I know you've seen Will Brennan and Oscar Gonzalez and Quan and Richie Palacios. I mean, I could sit here and name their entire team. Is there one of those guys that you think is someone that we need to keep an eye on right now that maybe other people don't know about?
In terms of the outfield situation, yeah, I think it is interesting to note that, looking at Arias as an outfield option when you've got so many outfield options, they're already. So, Valera is going to start the season. I would expect he starts the season at AAA Columbus, just because the major league outfield, I think going into the year, Quan, Straw, Gonzalez, it's probably them. And then who would they carry as well? Last year at the end of the season, it was Will Brennan, and I think there's a good chance that he's carried as well. And Richie Palacios was up and down. So Valera, I don't know that there's a spot for him right now, but injuries happen. Slumps happen. I mean, we don't want to think in terms of, Stephen Kwan, Oscar Gonzalez, they're not going to, perform like we saw them last season. But things have a way of happening. It's a long baseball season. And there were 17 guys that got an opportunity for a call up last year. A good number of guys that are going to get a call up, this year. Beyond the group that we're talking about, John Kenzie Noel is an interesting one. He was one that started at high A last year and then came up to Akron. And I think they're trying to figure him out positionally a little bit too. He was a corner infielder but once he got to Akron, he was primarily playing in the outfield. So again, he's another one that they were trying to find, where he fits and adjusting him defensively. Where he ends up long term is an interesting question. But offensively, I mean, unmatched power. Valera, great power. I mean, the ball jumps off the bat. Noel, I mean, he hits missiles. We were one of the first weeks he was with Akron, we were playing in Erie, where they have an arena that makes up left field. He was putting the ball on top of the arena. I'd never seen that, but he did it multiple times in that series. So, just incredibly exciting power from him. So he's one to watch as well, I would say.
And I think, go ahead, Bryan. I think we have a DH spot too, and I think that is going to play into account for a lot of this. I mean, Noel is listed at 6'3", 250 pounds. I don't necessarily know if I want him on the corner infield. I think an outfield spot may be in fact better suited for him, or maybe that DH role.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's where the Guardians are probably going to showcase him moving forward, with the ability to come in a pinch play first base.
So I have kind of a little fun question for you. If Marco today could do a freezing cold take on Marco 2 years ago or 3 years ago, one, who's your biggest surprise that has come up through the system, and then been with the Guardians, and then who's somebody that maybe you missed on that you thought would be like the next up and comer, and he just kind of flamed out?
Interesting. I would hate to make declarative statements about guys that I've seen, in Akron, just because they are so young, and, for guys that have that short experience in the major leagues, there's still opportunity for them. Right. So I would say I was honestly surprised by Stephen Kwan. People asked me, have asked me recently, when he was having this incredible year last year. Well, not incredible, I would say impressive. I mean, it's believable, because he's a great ball player, and he's a smart guy too, and talented, works hard, and does things the right way. But I was honestly surprised by how successful he was at the major league level. Certainly with Akron in 21, there was a point where it was like, oh yeah, he's the best hitter in this lineup. He is the toughest out. He's the guy you want up in the situation, that sort of thing. But did I think that he would break camp with the major league club the next spring? After a few weeks with AAA Columbus, he would break camp with the major league club and then sustain what we saw, make the adjustment, in that first half of the season. The league is adjusting to him. He makes the adjustment, and now he's solidified at the top of the lineup by the end of the year. He exceeded even my expectations.
I think that's fair to say. Stephen Kwan said he was surprised by his own success at the early part of the season. But you're saying that plate discipline, his style of play, has been there. Like that was obvious to you guys, even at the AA level.
Yeah. One thing that's harder to appreciate, I would say, in the minor leagues, at least from my perspective. So I'm calling the game from up high behind home plate, right? Watching on TV, seeing that the plate discipline is more obvious watching on TV, because you see, okay, that's where that pitch was, and he's not flinching. I mean, he is seeing that so well. So the TV angle, once you get to the big leagues, you can really tell, how well a guy has a feel for the strike zone, can, fight at the plate, that sort of thing. I mean, from behind the plate where I call the game, I have a little bit of a sense of that, but I think that's amplified by what we can see on TV at the major league level. You've got that strike zone box there, and he was one of those that's been talked about on social media, how much he was getting cheated by some calls, but I think that gave a concrete visual to some of the things we were sensing, I think, in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Recently I saw a statistic where he had like the most missed calls from like lefty pitchers that were on the outside plate. Like it was ridiculous. It was like 25 missed called strikes, and then the next guy had like 5.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for some reason,
he was the most, I think it was something like he was the most likely left-handed batter in the game last year to have a non-strike called a strike against him.
right.
Which you're dealing with. You have a great sense of the strike zone, but then the strike zone is being widened against you unfairly, and he still did what he did. So he's one that definitely exceeded what I had pictured, for him long term.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because I know in 21 the RubberDucks won the Eastern League Championship. I was calling a high school football game, and I had the quackrin.com up, and I had the game. I was watching. I'm a huge baseball guy. And what was it like to be a part of that, just that run, and then the comeback to win the game when it looked like it wasn't going to happen? Like, take me through some of that, Marco. What was that like from your vantage point?
It was awesome, just awesome. It's so excited, so happy for Ruglis Odor, the manager, who now will come back for a 4th season in Akron. He did such a good job with that club, and going into 21, it was not a heralded roster. You look at I mean, Oscar Gonzalez was part of the team, but he wasn't even like top, 25. Maybe he was top 30, but not like one of these top talked about guys. And we had Bo Naylor to start the season, but Bo Naylor, it wasn't hitting as well in 21. And the guys pieced it together with the pandemic restrictions and all of that. The new schedule, we were all dealing with that new schedule, these 6-game series. But then once things, you got deeper into the second half, Stephen Kwan was getting hot. We lost Gonzalez at the 4th of July, not even halfway through the season. And Tyler Freeman went out around that time too. So you didn't have Freeman, didn't have Gonzalez, but guys just kept stepping up. And each player made some kind of contribution. I think that was the indicator for me, and talking with some other people, around the team, closer to the clubhouse, that sort of thing, was like, okay, when you win a championship, it takes each player making some kind of contribution. And we got a huge shot in the arm from the arms that came in Peyton Battenfield and Connor Pilkington, that with the trades in August. We really benefited from those when the Guardians swung those in 21. And those guys were big in our rotation. And then having Xavion Curry come like the last week of that season too. So and Logan Allen. Yeah, Logan Allen too. So feeling pretty secure in a playoff spot late in the season, and then that lead was slipping, and then it turned into the final regular season series against Somerset, the Yankees affiliate, and it was like a playoff series. Great games, and then the comeback on the final day of the regular season. That's really when the backs were against the wall, was needing to win the final 2 games of the season against Somerset at Canal Park, winning on the second to last day, but then falling behind on the last day of the season, where it was the winner gets in, the loser goes home. And we were dominated. The Yankees prospect, Luis Medina, he's definitely a prospect. He was on that day. We were being no hit deep into the game, but we had Bryan Lavastida, who was a hot hitter, and then Jose Fermin. He caught fire, and it was the Jose Fermin show, and hit that game-tying home run. That really jolted me. You could probably go back and listen to the call. I mean, I was jacked up seeing him tie that game, and it felt like, from there that they were going to do it. They went to Bowie. They played Bowie well all year, and they won those 2 games. But then they were getting shut down on that game 3, up 2-0. You're going to play all 3 games if needed at home. get down 5-0, and Jim Clark and I on the broadcast, even by the 8th inning, we were chatting like we were going to be coming back the next night, basically. And then they started to put it together, and so appropriate for Bo Naylor to be the one to get the walk-off hit. I mean, you know, just a great magical moment for him, and exciting for the RubberDucks and the fans at Canal Park in Akron to witness.
Now, one interesting thing that, you know, because you were talking about like the players and all these guys like stepping up, and everybody kind of had a role. When you're making a run like that, or maybe earlier in the season, and you have a good team, how does it impact the players when their best players start getting called up to Columbus or getting called up to the big leagues? Because as a teammate, you're probably really excited for your friend, but on the other side of that, you're like, oh no, we just lost our best player and we're not going to win as many games.
Right. Yeah, I think it's more of a concern. Honestly, I think it's more of a concern from the fans' perspective. Like Oscar Gonzalez going up, whoa, that was a big loss. He was carrying us in the first half of the season. And then at a certain point, Will Benson went up, Stephen Kwan went up. So, you know, you're promoting these guys, but I think there was just such a strong culture that was built in that clubhouse, and there's continuity within the organization. These guys are familiar with one another. A guy comes up from Lake County. Will Brennan comes up from Lake County. George Valera comes up from Lake County. They're not strangers to, I mean, these guys are their teammates, spring training, maybe earlier in the year, the guys are down at Lake County. And the culture of winning, I think they did such a good job. You know, basically the clubhouse and the leadership there of sustaining that culture of winning, that culture of we're just going to keep going out there and competing, winning. We can do this, and I think winning builds confidence. Winning builds good vibes, and it just builds on itself.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
I gotta ask. We know that Jason Kipnis officially announced his retirement today. Obviously, for me, in the 2010 era for the Indians, you know, he was such a cornerstone piece. Any fond memory that you have, Marco? I know that he had some time in Akron with some rehab and things like that. Any fun Jason Kipnis story that you have?
Yeah, so I wasn't in Akron by the point that he rehabbed with the RubberDucks, but you know, you can tell when you know, a player is so beloved that you keep hearing his name, you know, over and over. You know, that people respected what he did, what he meant to the organization, what kind of a leader he was, what kind of a presence he was, and you know, hearing him, you know, speak. I mean, he's about the team, and just, I mean, a guy you'd want to play with for sure. That was evident in, you know, observing him from a distance.
Awesome.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, yeah, he's obviously one of my favorite Indians of all time. I'm hoping that he maybe signs a one-day contract so that he can retire with the Guardians. That would be pretty incredible, and maybe we could talk about potentially retiring his number. I know that might be a stretch, but I think that would be something pretty cool.
Well, at least like a Ring of Honor or something. I mean, to have a guy that was part of the team for that long, and I'm sure he's pretty high up on the second baseman statistics for the organization. Well, Marco, before we wrap up here, where can people find you? You gave us the list of where we can listen to you, but where can people find you? Social media, website, where you know, where do you write, things like that?
Yeah. So I'm part of the RubberDucks front office year round. So people can actually find me at Canal Park at games. I call the broadcast at the early part of the game and the late part of the game, but the middle innings, I'm actually out and about visiting with folks at the ballpark because I do have clients coming out. You can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at LaNave Marco. That's LANAVE MARCO at LaNave Marco, Twitter and Instagram. Website is marco-lanave.com. And yeah, check out Canal Park and the Akron RubberDucks, and you're going to be treated to some fun entertainment at the ballpark. A great experience. I mean, it's a great organization to work for. I've now worked with this ownership group for over 7 years, and love working for them.
Marco, have you guys announced your bobbleheads yet?
So stay tuned. Those should be coming soon, as we're talking here in mid-February. I would say by the end of this month, we're hoping to give you the rundown of what we've got in store for the lineup this year.
Awesome.
I can't wait. Canal Park, I've told Bryan this multiple times. I live literally probably 10 minutes from Canal Park. You will find me there quite a bit during the season. I was there when they clinched the playoff. I really wanted to be there when they were in the championship series, but my part-time job kept me from that. But I'm a huge baseball guy, but having a facility like Canal Park in my backyard is so incredible. Bryan, you and I are taking in a game, at least one this year down here at Canal Park for sure.
I'm there. Just let me know when. And Marco will shake you down in the 5th inning or whenever it is.
I'll come check
that
on
you get
guys.
your break.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll find Marco for sure. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Marco. Much appreciated. Loved having you on. If you want to do a season recap or something like that, come the end of the year, let us know. Would love to have you on again.
Oh, that would be great. You guys are doing a great job. I mean, it's exciting that we're talking about an organization that I think is really well run, exciting players, great people, and you guys are staying on top of it all. So looking forward to communicating and seeing you out at the ballpark.
All right. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marco. Again, appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, baseball season is upon us. Go check out the RubberDucks if you live close by in Akron, Ohio. You've got the Clippers down in Columbus if you're there. Obviously, the Guardians in Cleveland. We can't forget about the Lake County Captains either. I mean, baseball can be found very easily in Northeast Ohio. I love it, and I can't wait. Is it baseball time yet, Bryan? Are we ready? Can we play?
I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Unfortunately, I think the weather in Arizona has been colder than it has been here in Northeast Ohio. So I'm not sure the players are warmed up quite yet. I saw a lot of beanies and gloves and jackets. So maybe almost there.
Almost. I can't wait. I'm getting excited again. Marco, thank you so much for hopping on. We will definitely have you back. We appreciate it, and look forward to hearing about our RubberDucks this year.
Mike, that was fantastic stuff from Marco. Really appreciate having him on. A nice little preview kind of some of our younger guys, and maybe not some of the household names yet, but hopefully household names for the future here for the upcoming season and the next coming couple of years. But that's going to be it for us. We'll be back here in a little while. Like I said, spring training will start to ramp up, going every other week once the season kicks in, but we'll have some previews for you. Mike, where can the people find you?
Where can they find me? I can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Mike Vorhies. Last name is spelled V is in Victor, Orhies. Mr. Shaw, what about you and us? Where can they find us?
WXSHAW on Twitter. We are Guardcast MLB on Twitter, MLB Guardcast on Facebook. You can find me, just Bryan Shaw, on Facebook. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify and you wanted to see our ugly faces, you can watch us on YouTube. But we are in all the places, and we really appreciate you listening.
We'll see you soon. Baseball's coming, guys. Get ready.
Talk to you soon.